When you look at it from a Web3 perspective, the need for the traditional CEO/entrepreneur is fading away. There is this beautiful aspect to decentralized organizations where if you are the type of person who naturally builds community or can at least attempt to go more in that direction, and that's more well suited for you versus building a traditional Web2 LLC type company, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go through legal formation. You don't have to do all the traditional stuff you used to do with building a company. All you got to do is launch that Discord or that Instagram or that TikTok and get going. And once you build that community, the leverage that you have, it's remarkable. Like the next thing you know, you're in fucking business, baby. And you have a community of people to run it with you.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's revolutionary, man. Like the old way is really, really dying.
Like getting a sniper rifle. Bang, got one.
Bro, I'm here for you. Anytime.
I got a busy one today, folks. I snipered him from how many miles away in Portland, Oregon, all the way down to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you travel a lot too. I was jealous of you traveling last year. I was like, fuck, all around Europe. So pissed off at you.
Some people got mad at me for that.
It's because you're so
traveling.
It's because your social media is so good. Your stories are so good. You're like, oh, just another cathedral. Oh, just walking around Amsterdam. Oh, look, we bought some stuff. Here's my family. So much fun. Fuck, man, I was inside that whole period.
I saw my family. Yeah,
I was inside that whole period being like, fuck Arman. And the hair was good in every photo.
Pretty spread. Can thank my dad, my parents for that.
Yeah, every photo was good.
Shout out to the parents. Yeah, man.
Yep.
No, it was really good.
And what is on your? Have you already traveled internationally this year?
Good question. Have I? Shit. I got to work on my like memory a little more. I need to play a little more Duel and Back. I don't know if you've heard of that game, Duel and Back. But have I traveled internationally? No, I don't think so. But I have a big one coming up. I'm going to Egypt and Greece.
Ooh.
Yeah, with my wife.
Fuck, it's so good.
Right around my birthday. Right around our birthday.
So that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, I have to say, so have you been to either?
No.
Okay. Well, Greece, I lived in, so I have a lot of good things to say. We can talk about that.
Shit.
I love Greece. Egypt was a little scary to me, though.
Yeah.
I guess you blend into me, and we'll be perfect. We're perfect in that area. In that area of the world, it's actually perfectly fine. The problem was I was with so many Americans that it was obvious that I was American, and it didn't look good for me. And that Egypt was a place where I saw the most automatic weapons in one place out in public.
I don't like that.
I'm sure it's fine though. I'm sure it's fine because Egypt. My experience of Egypt was we went on a tour after getting off on a cruise, and they took us to the pyramids in Giza. But to get us on these buses, and this is 2009. To get us on these buses, they would load us in, and then they would shuttle us with armored jeeps flanking the bus because there are tourist abductions. And even at the pyramids, there's like often pretty sketchy shit that happens because there's so many people coming in from all over, and it's just an interesting area. So I think it's fine.
I've heard the same thing from others. Did you go directly in and out, or did you see around a little bit different parts of Egypt?
I went in and out to Giza, and we saw a bit of the Nile, but that was just because of the timing that we were there. I would have liked to say more. Again, I think it was more just like those groups are really attracted, or those people are really attracted to the groups of tourists. And if you're
totally
right in that area, like I feel like if you can just be low key about it, it's okay.
Absolutely. There's one thing that I personally want to do. I mean, Erica wants to see, like, she's a history like nerd, and I think she lived like a past life like in Egypt. So she has this whole thing about wanting to go to Egypt, and she's always had it. Yeah. And she's just might have been Cleopatra, who knows. But like my thing with it, there's this travel blogger that I started following last year during the pandemic, Lost LeBlanc. And it seems like a cool cat, and he's got some like really high quality videos. He has one specific episode where he goes into Egypt. He goes into the White Desert, and he like basically hangs out there for 3 days in the middle of the desert, which I was like, I want to do that.
What's in the white desert?
I mean, honestly, it just looked beautiful, but what I got out of it was he got to basically spend 3 nights as like a Bedouin, just like nomad out there. It was organized, gets in a Jeep. They bring everything. Him and his girl just stayed out there in the middle of the desert, built a camp, fire, sang songs, made music, ate food. I was like, that's my kind of travel. Like, that's what I like to do. It's an experience that I would never forget. So that's what I want to create, is something like that in Egypt. And then
I would say
go to Greece and get all your recommendations and do all the good shit.
Well, yeah, no, I that whole area of the world, I think also in terms of past lives, I must have been from there. I just love, I love the Middle East. I love the Mediterranean, that whole area, like Northern Africa. I just love that area. It's kind of it can be different parts of it. It can be sketch. Other parts of it are super beautiful. Other parts, and it's various shades of olive to brown to basically black. Yeah. But the food, I think, is the best in that area. I think the people are the most beautiful, both men and women. I think the culture is it's like literally the cradle of humanity. There's nothing I don't like about that part of the world. I mean, except the obvious consistent chaos.
Yeah, totally. Like I would love to go to like Syria or Iraq.
Yeah, man.
But I'm not going.
Just can't
right now.
I went to Palestine, and that was scary.
I've heard. Yeah, I would love to go there. I would love to go to Lebanon. That's where I really want to go.
I wouldn't go there now.
Yeah. But Beirut, I hear, is like a party capital, actually.
Dude, totally. And I mean, just the food, man. The food, just for the food alone. I know you went to Turkey as well.
Oh, that was one of my favorite places.
That same area.
Yeah.
The Ottoman area, the Ottoman Empire.
Totally. Turkey blew me away.
Yeah. What was cool about Turkey?
Everything you just said is encapsulated in Turkey, plus modern hospitality. I mean, the hospitality was just through the roof. I think it's the closest thing that I could ever get to Iran, Persian culture. I'm Persian and I can't go there, and it's a sad situation. And so sad. The closest culture to that is Turkish culture. Most similar food, most similar people, most similar language. And so for me,
most similar language.
That. Yeah, I mean, the closest you can get. I mean, Turkish is closer to Persian and Farsi than it is to Arabic.
Really?
I mean, way, yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
Turkish is closer to Farsi than Arabic is to Farsi?
You have a ton of people in Iran speaking Turkish. You don't have anybody speaking Arabic.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. Yeah. Okay, well, I believe it if you say it. That's surprising.
Yeah, Arab culture and Persian culture are very, very different, but Persian and Turkish culture are just much more similar.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, Turkey has been on my list, and I've gone through there a lot. I know that in Greece, in that area of the world, the Turks and the Greeks, they're not too into each other. Right. They don't like each other.
Right.
It's like a blood feud. It's like a 1,000-year blood feud.
Yeah, for sure.
That area of the world, I think, is crazy. The blood feuds that they have in that area of the world.
There's been genocide. There's been a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
Just what they hold on to. We have that similar in the U.S. with slavery. But what they have, their own version of it, it's not slavery, but their generational blood feud is all just the chaos in that area, the different claims to land, the religious stuff. We don't have that in America because, it's just a much newer, fresher land, but
way too new. Yeah.
This is, at least for civilization, probably.
Pre-biblical stuff out there, man. Goes back a long time, and they each have their story. Humans have their story, and like without tribes, we wouldn't create culture. We wouldn't create these beautiful civilizations that we have. But with culture and with those tribes, we create conflict, and it's an unfortunate double-edged sword.
Have you ever done any any research or any learning into the Native Americans?
I'm not a Native American buff. No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I've just as much as I've come across it casually, but I've never done a deep dive.
I think it would behoove you to do a deep dive into Native Americans because this culture is awesome. I have always told myself, I love being Black and I love that culture. I love that life. But at the same time, if I come back and reincarnate, I'd reincarnate as a Native American. One, you don't see that many of them. But, really, I feel like Mexicans are basically Native Americans just because they are indigenous to this land, just southern United States, basically. Anyway. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking about like Native Americans, like the Plains tribes, the Sioux, the Iroquois, this type of stuff, all more up north, man, these cultures are so fascinating. They have advanced religious beliefs. They have like whole philosophies. They're obviously pre-industrial, pre-farming, but they had, like working communities that were doing advanced things. And also just their, I feel like their culture is so much tied to nature, and I'm really attracted to that. I'm really
I was
attracted
going
to
to
connections
ask
to
you
land.
those exact words. I literally
Yeah.
was going to ask, are you attracted to that aspect of them? The
That I think is
connection to
most of it.
land, nature, the spirituality aspect of it.
It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's just something that I think we don't often appreciate enough. We're in this world. I mean, I'm looking outside right now. I see all these trees. That's one of the reasons we moved to Oregon, to be closer to nature. It's
And
important.
how's that going? You seem better out there.
I'm better.
Life seems better out there.
Life's better. I mean, you're in California, and that's why you travel to get out of California sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I feel really lucky with San Diego.
I do like San Diego a lot.
I do feel like it's a special place that's been able to inoculate itself from most of the California bullshit, but it's not bulletproof. And if things really go south in California, as they seem to be, it's not going to withstand that. But LA's a shithole. And I would never
LA is
I almost forced my wife, like I was like, we have to live in LA. We have to live in LA. I'm glad I didn't do it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, LA. It's not where I want to be anymore. And I think that even if it wasn't for pandemic, I think just generally speaking, sometimes it's like places the energy changes for you. It's like you go into a bar the first day in a new town. It's beautiful. There are bands playing. You love the lights. People are looking good. It's all clean and nice. And then, a couple years later, you go to the same bar, you see a roach scurrying across the counter, you see the crusty fries in the corner. It doesn't smell as nice. You're like, it's the same bar, but I've changed.
I know? Yeah.
I've sucked the energy out of this place. That's how I thought about LA.
Totally. Like the places I used to go in college. Oh my God. If I go there now.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like, but that's because you were a different person. Your brain it's a physically different brain. Well, this is something I've been interested in because I'll put this in the show notes. You've obviously had your career has spanned many different types of disciplines. Obviously you have experience in copywriting and marketing, but that's just one element of your total skill set. Now you're really working on things in Web3. What's interesting you right now? What do you want to talk about?
Oh man, I'm
interested about anything, but what do you want to talk about?
I'm interested in so many things right now. And I think that's such an interesting, that's the crux of it, right? One of the challenges I see in society today is that we have this desire to properly label ourselves. Because when you can put language to who you are, not only do you affirm and communicate to yourself an identity, but you're able to communicate that to other people. And if other people can simply say, Arman's a lawyer, or, Daniel's a biologist, it's just easier. So being the nonconformist that I am, the challenge I have with that is that it's very static. And I don't like static things because static things are in opposition to the nature of life. We're not static. And I'm so much more than an entrepreneur, a copywriter, a Web3 advocate guy, a builder, a thinker, a philosopher. I mean, it's fucking, yeah, it's annoying to try to encapsulate that. And again, I'm not like shunning the idea of putting some sort of label on yourself in order to just simplify the conversation and give a starting point to who you are. It's important, but one of my like heroes, Alan Watts, said this as well, where that really resonated with me. He said that you cannot describe the present by the past. And when people try to, talk about the historical context of who they are in order to describe who they are today, it doesn't work. You must begin with the present. You must begin with what is true in that moment, right here, right now. So that's a roundabout fucking way of answering your question, and haven't even answered it. And the answer really for me right now is that I'm a person who has committed my life to growth in so many ways. Like growth has been a theme for so long, but I actually feel like I stopped growing the last couple of years. Like, don't get me wrong, my knowledge has expanded so much. Things that I can point to, like I didn't know anything about crypto 3 years ago compared to what I know today.
Same.
So my knowledge has expanded, but my growth has not. And I thought about this really recently, actually last night. And I think the reason for that is that I lacked the exposure to other people in physical form, like getting together with people in groups, traveling, like you mentioned at the beginning, like you saw me traveling, going around the world. Dude, I have to do that. I don't do that for any reason other than to not wither and
He'll
die.
go crazy.
I will go crazy. I will go crazy. And like at one point during the beginning of the pandemic, the first country to open up was French Polynesia. I went straight there. Like I had to. I just did. I was dying. It was like 3 months at home. 3 months. Everyone else stayed home for like a year. I was like, nah, 3 months.
Where are you going?
That
Tahiti.
Nice.
Why? It's the only place open.
Dude, that was literally it. There was like 3 other people there.
You went to French Polynesia?
Yeah. I went to Moorea.
You were scrolling
and
on.
Tahiti.
You were looking on. You're refreshing Google every 5 minutes to see what country was open.
That's exactly right.
Booking a flight.
I had 3 different sources open that were showing like updated restrictions and what you needed to do, and I had to go through so much to do it. Man, I had to go through so much.
I love it. You're not.
That's who I am. That's who I am, and that's one way I grow, is that exposure in real life, that wanderlust, that experience, that travel gives me that sense of I'm alive. Like I'm alive. Oh my God. Yeah. But the other thing that does is like being surrounded by people that challenge me and in groups. And like, I just think being away from conferences and events as an extrovert was really, really, really hard for me. And I just recently joined EO, Entrepreneurs Organization.
Oh, nice. Yeah, how's
like
that?
Last week. Great. I did my like initial training yesterday and I'm pumped. Like I feel like I'm in the right place at this stage of life. I need this like level up right now. So I'm really pumped. I feel like I'm surrounded by there's plenty of people more experienced and knowledgeable than me. I was the youngest guy in the room yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
That's good though. You want to be around people with some wisdom and experience. So this is interesting because I've had this conversation with myself in the car on the way home. And even with Sarah, I was talking to her and I said, I want to get more involved in Portland, the city of Portland, and be involved with the things going on here, whether it's in the entrepreneurship community or not, but just be involved with people in a physical space. And one of the ideas I had was, this is like, I'm just fleshing this out now, but what if I opened up some sort of like storefront retail location, or it could be an office location, but somewhere in a community area of Portland, not like at a WeWork. We could do that, but somewhere in downtown, you can rent spaces. And now after COVID, I'm sure it's cheap, man. I'm sure it's not expensive to rent a space downtown Portland in a cool area and just do like New Wave HQ and like do Web3 like workshops, do trainings, film videos there, just to have a base in the city, and be like, we're here, we're in Portland. I think that would be cool. No one's doing that.
I think it'd be super cool. And there's a deep need for it right now for a lot of people. So community is a highly desirable thing in every way. And
I think I've
been seeing that across, you can see that virtually with Discord. And like, it's so funny. I posted the other like a week or 2 ago, hey guys, like if you have any interest in joining my Alfalfa Discord, just let me know. It's not up yet, but let me know. Dude, it's so funny. Like not only did I get inundated with way more requests than I thought I would, but they kept following up. I was like, I got you. I got you.
God,
I got your
Discord.
name. I got you. And they were like, what is it up? Is it ready? And they would follow up. People would follow up the next day, 2 days later, 3 days later. And I thought about that. I was like, what is going on? There's a million Discord groups that you can join right now. Why do you care about this one? Well, one is I think there was an aspect of like exclusivity, FOMO. Oh, I want to get into this one. But
Yeah.
the other aspect is that I think people crave that ability for someone like you, someone like me, to curate the group because they know that they'll get more people like that. And when somebody can cultivate
Yes.
that for them, that's really exciting. It takes all the work out of it. And people want that. So you should do something.
Dude, you're blowing my mind right now. I have so many things to say about this. This is what someone who's listening can take away from this, because I learned this for myself recently. I, in the past, have been down on myself because I'm like, I'm not as good of a CEO as my friends, even though I'm pretty good. But I know that there's a gap between me and people who I could call a second away, you know? And I thought, what is the difference? It's not intelligence. It's not resourcefulness, really. And what I found for myself is that I am much better at the center of a community than head of a company. I can do both. But I think where my natural skill set resides is in cultivating and generating a community. But I don't think I'm uniquely special in that, neither are you. I think someone listening to this, if you're feeling like entrepreneurship is interesting to me, but I don't want to head up a company, maybe you need to be in the heart of a community. And they're both ways of monetizing something, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And also creating value and also bringing people together. But maybe if you never thought of yourself as a top-down entrepreneur, maybe you're a center-out entrepreneur.
Dude, that's brilliant. And I couldn't agree with you more because, first of all, I think it's a personality thing as well. Like, not everyone is well suited for, that type of executive leadership.
Nathan, at Founder, he's a beast. The way he does Founder, I'm like, I couldn't do that the way you're doing it because my brain doesn't work like that, bro.
Yeah.
The way his brain, like, just you've talked to him, you know how he is.
Absolutely.
I'm more like up here and doing this stuff and like doing mushrooms and like choking people, and he's like, bro, I'm doing Founder magazine. That's what he's doing. And
it's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
I always brag about him because he told me years ago,
Same.
Like, once I stop, bro, I never stop. He started with these webinars like 7 years ago. This motherfucker hasn't stopped doing webinars every week.
I know. And
I'm like,
he's a whipping.
You win.
He's a whipping.
He's a weapon, bro.
I didn't even know that word until he said it.
He's a weapon, massive weapon.
Yeah, shout out to Nathan. Like, Founder is an incredible resource, which I'm sure you've mentioned many times as well from your course and work with them. But yeah, we're Founder
The difference
brothers
is though, like, in personalities of
it is, and I want to mention something. You reminded me of something with the previous comment. So around this idea of like community building and people listening and how they might approach entrepreneurship. So I fundamentally agree with that idea. And when you look at it from a Web3 perspective, the need for the traditional CEO/entrepreneur is fading away. You have this idea of DAOs. And yes, exactly. And even these idea of DAOs, the idea of centralization as a whole, I'm not saying that that's like the answer and that's the only way to build something, because I think DAOs have many flaws to them when it comes to building great products. We don't have to unpack that at this moment.
We're early days with that, so it's not really even irrelevant.
Yeah, and
we'll get there.
Without diving into that, the point being that there is this beautiful aspect to decentralized organizations where if you are the type of person who naturally builds community or can at least attempt to go more in that direction, and that's more well suited for you versus building a traditional Web2 LLC type company, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go through legal formation. You don't have to do all the traditional stuff you used to do with building a company. All you got to do is launch that Discord or that Instagram or that TikTok and get going. And once you build that community, the leverage that you have, it's remarkable. Like now the world is your oyster. Do you want to launch an NFT? Do you want to turn your group into an NFT like subscription model where, like do you want to build a software now with the community that you built? A great example of a software is NFT HUD. NFT HUD is like this intelligence tool and statistical analysis tool for buying and selling NFTs. It gives you more information than you would be able to access organically by just looking at listings on OpenSea. So it's a SaaS model, Web3, to buy access to it. You don't pay $20 a
Yeah.
month. You buy a lifetime access NFT.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that's possible is if you had already pre-built that community, you established that this is something they want, and you built the thing for them that they want, and then you pre-sell just like you should when you're doing an MVP strategy or building any sort of software product. And next thing you know, you're in fucking business, baby, and you have a community of people to run it with you, for you even.
Yeah.
And maybe they earn, tokens, equity. Maybe it's a guild of some kind. Like, there's just so many ways to go about this, and fuck, it's revolutionary, man. Like, the old way is really, really dying quickly.
I think they'll coexist with each other for as long as they can, because there's power in the top-down model, and people like power. There's power in both models. It's just a different type of power. And perhaps the decentralized model of starting a community that all has some sort of ownership will overtake the more centralized model, because it eventually will exceed what the centralized model can do in terms of innovation. Centralization oftentimes can reduce innovation, sometimes because there are fewer people contributing and a more, think about Facebook, for instance, and their growth in comparison to like a Web3 technology.
Yeah.
Think about how many channels they have to go through to approve something, whereas other things grow so much more quickly. So,
Totally agree. Like, a simple example that I sometimes give is like, a DAO will never build the next iPhone. A DAO wouldn't build an iPhone. Like, that's just not possible.
Of a DAO.
It's not the purpose exactly. So,
no. But it can move faster.
I agree.
Than an Apple could.
They'll coexist, and there will be a hybrid. And Uniswap's a good example of that. Of a sort of centralized entity that maintains a certain level of control, and in the areas where it's important to give governance and voting rights and make people feel like they are stakeholders, that's where the DAO component comes in. And I think that's a healthy model for sure.
One thing I would point out too, because my course is Start Your Side Hustle and Founder, and I'm always thinking about it from this perspective. Whenever I hear about emerging business models, I do two things. One, I study the emerging business model. So in that case, that's Web3. So if you're listening to this, obviously you're listening to New Wave, you like Web3, that's great. So study that, but then realize that this emerging business model is creating a need right here in the now on Web2 for people that want to service the people who are going into Web3. So for instance, I have a friend who runs a company that's doing branding for metaverse companies. Yeah. And it's like, it's the hybrid of it's what is needed with what's been tried and true. Branding is still a thing, but metaverse is new, and there's only so many people doing that angle, that pitch, because now they have to go into VR settings and like design VR sets. So they're designing like VR environments for companies to do launches in the metaverse, and they have to like make the mansion and put the logos on it, and that's a whole new thing. Even though it's still they hire designers on wherever they hire them on, and they get people to do the, and then they pitch it. So they're the old and new, and that's how you look for money out there in the streets.
Oh man! And if you can build your portfolio up and target a niche like that,
exactly,
in the Web3 world with your skills, like, I feel like the sky's the limit with stuff like that. It's funny you just said that, because I like the next podcast that I'm solo one that I'm recording is on this topic. Like, I really believe that people should step into this as quickly as possible, because when you can get that foothold and build that persona and that character and that portfolio and that recognition, or reputation, I should say, it's like, I think that the compound effect of getting in early as a side hustle person, as a freelancer, as anyone with any service offering in particular, if you can help these Web3 companies in any way, the way that is most authentic to you and natural to you, man, I just think it's like money is flying.
That's what I'm saying.
People are spending in ETH too. So it's like, well, that only cost me 0.2 ETH to do that. Okay, no problem. It's like, here you go.
Yeah.
So,
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and I often talk about, having some sort of understanding of, for instance, Solidity, which you can develop smart contracts on. And I am not good at it at all. I've just been doing some little games and things like that. But programming is only one way to make money with what's happening in the new wave. You can be a supportive element of this emerging technology and charge because you're one of the only ones in that space at that time. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
skills that you've learned from other things will be transferable to this. It's just that now you're positioning yourself a bit differently. And I think that yeah, there's something to be said about longevity in a game. Like, for instance, the people who were marketing experts when Facebook marketing was the number one thing, are they still marketing experts? And can you keep developing yourself and being a chameleon to the marketplace? You look at, for instance, like, I know I'm going off on a tangent now, but you look at someone like Snoop Dogg, who's somehow been relevant for like 30 years now.
It's
And
amazing.
he's had to change his sound and his game, but he's up there with Martha Stewart, folding towels with Martha Stewart, and still in the Super Bowl commercials, and still gangbanging Crip sets on national TV, but then still going back and like doing a commercial in India. And so he didn't stay in his one box of like West Coast gangster rapper in the 90s and fade out with 2 hits in the 90s. He continued
That's
to
right.
evolve himself. And you can see the examples of companies that didn't. Another example of this would be like, for instance, Jawbone. Remember when Jawbone was like the number one Bluetooth thing?
Yeah.
And they had the like the headset innovation, and they also had a wireless speaker, which was the precursor to like those Beats pills. And in both of those instances, they didn't continue to evolve the technology enough to stay competitive to even have a piece of the market. Now where's Jawbone? You know,
Right.
it's gone.
Yeah, you're right. It was like a high-end, badass.
Really high-end.
Everyone was all over it. With Snoop, he's such a good example of what I was talking about in the beginning around like not being static. Like the whole thing
Not
you're talking
static.
about is about not being static. Like
Yeah.
if you become pigeonholed by your own doing or the doing of the market, you're fucked. Like you cannot allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be playing this game of like the concentric circles. Like everyone's seen it, like there's always some new concentric circles that are thrown up on Instagram, but it's usually something like, what does the world or the market, what does the world need? What does the market need? What do you naturally do? Find that space, find that gap. And like, you have to stay close to these trends because like Snoop is a great example of that. Man, if he had stayed static, he wouldn't have an NFT right now or be involved in all
No.
this metaverse stuff.
He would
Like,
he would
no
be
way.
on throwback episodes on VH1 if he had stayed
Yeah.
the same. Now he's going to he'll probably be a billionaire now. I mean, he's
Yeah.
getting up there. He's getting close. He probably will be. I mean, all his friends are becoming billionaires.
Right.
He probably will too. It's really interesting, and I think that like continuing to evolve yourself is so important. And I know that for me, I have recently really taken to heart Naval Ravikant's idea of, I think he calls it like specific knowledge of or specific skills. When you do unique and interesting projects over a period of years that culminate in one-of-a-kind experiences, you can combine those things to create things that only you can do. And those are things that have such value that you get to price them. It's not like, oh, it's $15 an hour to work at the store, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. It's like, well, you want me to put together an experience where we're going to do a fight camp, and then we're going to do, tactical training, and then we're going to do, spiritual experience, and then you also want crypto in between that? Well, that's X price, because I know how to do it, And you have the same
Absolutely.
stuff. I mean, you've done e-commerce, you've done consulting, you've run a business, you've worked in a business, you have all these different experiences. And so your specific knowledge, you've created projects and launched them. You've had projects that fail, all these specific experiences lend themselves to creating a skill set that is really unmatched. And then it's just your job to find the right fit of people to collaborate with.
Yeah. It honestly reminds me as well of Mr. Watts again, because a lot of the pursuit of that and how you develop specific knowledge, the root of it is your own personal curiosity.
Right.
And if you follow that, it lands on his most famous saying of like, what would you do if money were no object? Because if truly money were no object, you would do what creates the maximum amount of curiosity and joy in your life.
Yes.
And if you continue to do that for years, over and over and over again, you develop very specific knowledge that you can charge any fee you desire for. Now, how big will that market be? Well, TBD, but it'll be big enough. There's always enough, like, to Mr. Kevin Kelly now, the 1,000 true fans principle. It'll be big enough that you should work toward developing 1,000 true fans that the moment you drop that product or that idea or that offer, that they'll jump on it. And if you can do that, you're set for the rest of your life. And man, I think that like how this will play out, like going into the Web3 world, it's going to be at scale. And so your ability to offer any product or service or experience, man, it's going to be remarkable. I mean, we're just at the beginning stages of like creating these virtual experiences too. Like the Zoom experience of the future is going to be absolutely nuts. And I'm not very big, by the way, on a lot of this metaverse stuff and VR stuff. I don't know if you are. I think we love that idea, and in execution, it still has a long way to go. I personally don't want to put a headset on. I get sick, and I think there's like a too much percentage of the population that just generally gets motion sickness and doesn't really want that. But talking about overlays and AR and augmented reality, like that's very interesting to me. And the types of experiences we'll be able to create, I think those are the ones that'll scale first. We'll see.
I think it's levels of immersion, right? It's like for a short period of time, VR is fine and can be fun. We're going to actually test doing this podcast in the metaverse.
Woohoo! Really?
So I think we're one of the first to ever do this. I haven't even announced this officially yet. So if you're listening to this, then you know. But we are actually hooking it up to the Oculus headset. And we're going to be able to feed this through. I'm working with Legion Network, which is a metaverse company that has a whole suite of apps for this. And we're going to test select guests in the metaverse. We're creating a new wave studio virtually. And we're going to be doing whole interviews from there. And then we're going to shoot the video of us like this, like we're talking now, but with the headset on, and then be able to go into the footage looking at us in the metaverse as well. So you can see us IRL and in the metaverse, and then use that as our promotional content.
See, this is where you can get really innovative with this stuff and test a lot of different things. And I think it's going to be really interesting.
Maybe it sucks. Like, I don't know, but it could be fun.
No, but that's the idea. Like, who knows? It could be incredible. And that's actually the point really that I'm driving at is like nobody knows. It's very early with this stuff. So like how people react, we have to innovate. We have to pioneer it. I don't know. Nobody.
We're
really
gonna be able to
knows.
have guests in the studio too if they have an Oculus, and you can log in from your phone too. But obviously, you want to have the VR experience. So we're gonna test this. But I mean, specific knowledge is like also looking at what's out there and not being afraid to fail at things because you're generating a series of experiences that creates that specific knowledge. I feel that tons of launches and tons of different stuff. It's not going from success to success to success. It's just generating the experiences and then creating your own hypothesis around those, you know?
Yeah, totally. So I am curious, dude. Not sorry to pivot a little bit, but I'm really curious where your mind's been at with crypto lately. Like, just given the state of the world, and this market is like so fucking
it's horrible.
Blah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean,
everyone's kind of approaching it differently. I was curious where you're at with it.
If you would have asked me in November, my answer would have been completely different. My feeling is that we're most likely in a bear market now. I don't see how we couldn't be. And I think that one thing that's become clear is how connected the crypto space is to the traditional markets. And they'll say, well, it will decouple eventually. Maybe it will, but right now it's not. And that is interesting. And I think that it's telling. I'm curious to see if we've already hit the bottom and are going to either stay here and go back up, or if there's going to be more fluctuation because uncertainty continues. But I think overall in the long run, I'm still very bullish. It would seem that progress is still going in that direction, and you can't hold back something that's already underway. So more vendors are accepting crypto, more companies are interested in metaverse, more people are doing NFTs. Like, we're already moving in that direction. So I think long-term bullish, but short-term, that's why another thing too is I don't consider myself a crypto expert or even a reporter on crypto. I'm an interested consumer that will talk about it and solicit opinions. So even on my feeds on my socials, I'm not doing crazy crypto market reports. I'll drop a little bit here and I'll say, let's focus on the metaverse more now. Let's focus on all the technology as a whole, because Web3 isn't just crypto.
Right. Not at all.
But what do you think?
Oh man. Well, in terms of, there's so many aspects to it, right? In terms of where overall the macro is at, maybe to start there, I think that the executive order that was just dropped by Biden was really interesting. I think there was a lot of fear that there was going to be just like very knee-jerk restrictions, and that didn't happen. And so I think a
No.
lot of people are relieved by that. But I don't think that that means they should take their foot off the gas pedal. And the people that are most involved in the crypto community with regulation and working closely with the government to create an open door policy where we support each other and they have access to understanding how all this stuff works. And uh, part of the order stated that they are very interested in that and that they want to understand this essentially revolutionary technology and do deep research to see like how we should approach it as a country. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. There is, of course, also the typical political stuff. Let's see how this is used illicitly, criminally, and so on and so forth. But that's good. I mean, anybody that wants any level of safety or regulation in crypto, which should be most people, um, wants that as well. We just want it done right. We don't want it done in a way that's very blind or done in a way that's uneducated, because no one wants to get fucked in crypto. And there has to be a certain amount of regulation or there has to be a certain amount of enforcement, right? At the end of the day, like, how far can we take it? Where does the law stand when crime happens in the crypto space? I mean, some people are going to say like code is law, right? Like, how far can you take that? And I think that's up for debate, and it'll continuously be up for debate. So from a macro level, that was a good thing. It didn't hurt, and so
Did
crypto
you
prices
read?
have.
Did you read what he said about the CBDCs though?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I made an announcement about this today, which is we're recording this on a Friday. You might not listen to this on a Friday. You'll probably listen to this on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, listener. But on today's bulletin, I talked about Biden's update or Biden's address, and one of the things he addressed are CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies. And on that Friday wrap up, on that bulletin, I kind of discussed what those are and what some of the potential pitfalls of those are. So a central bank digital currency is different than a digital dollar, which most dollars now are already digital. We already have a digital ledger of sorts, but a central bank digital currency is essentially almost like a crypto perversion. That's what Edward Snowden calls them, a crypto perversion. It's a government issued crypto that can be tracked. And the difference is that, from my understanding, a true CBDC, we're not going to have 100% ownership of the wallet or the actual token. It's going to be, for instance, the government will be able to easily enter the wallet. They'll be able to potentially control how we use the funds. And one of the examples in Snowden's counter argument to this, because Edward Snowden wrote a whole article about this, and I referenced this. One of his counter arguments was that if the government wants to direct you to purchase a certain brand of something or by a certain provider, they can block your funds from being applied to a certain type of purchase. And for people on government assistance or for people who are using the government wallets, it can create conflicts of interest and all different types of nefarious things, and essentially be able to control consumer spending power, and also really have no way to object to do your own taxes, really. Mm-hmm. So these are just things that I mentioned. I don't know if you thought about those things.
Yeah, a ton. It can get very dystopian very quickly with CBDCs. We kind of are at a point where we don't have much of a choice. I'm actually glad to see that the government said, let's move, let's get going, because as many people might know, or if they don't, the digital yuan is quickly accelerating, and
China's already doing it.
Yeah, there's fears that the digital yuan could become more ubiquitous or powerful and accessible than the dollar, and there is constantly a debate on what the future of the reserve currency of the world looks like. A lot of people that are Bitcoin maxis want it to be Bitcoin. A lot of people think it could be the US CBDC dollar or the digital yuan, and we'll see how all that plays out. I think
it's not going to be the US CBDC. Let me tell you right there. I mean, I could be wrong. I would bet a lot of CBDCs that is not.
Yeah, exactly. So I would love it for it to be a crypto of some kind. And when it comes to sound money, there's big debates between Bitcoin and Ethereum, but if you ask me, I think when it comes to sound money, I mean the new meme is like Ethereum is ultrasound money. And it's just a lot of this stuff is meme culture and it's funny, but there's a lot of truth to it as well. So anyway, to zoom out a bit, in the with the macro, there's obviously the war in Ukraine, the Russians invading Ukraine, which is a huge deal. There's the escalation possibilities of that expanding. Will there be some sort of peace deal or not? Who the hell knows? I think that as that all plays out with crypto, I think that Ethereum is incredibly undervalued right now. Um, I don't know, and I think Bitcoin as well has probably like one of the things that we do at my company, Collective Shift, is we provide crypto education and investing research. That's literally what we do. We have a team of analysts, and we publish everything from insights and buy and sell alerts and a host of everything you need to get started and get educated, but also build your portfolio. We have our own portfolio, so designed to be Bitcoin over 5 years, and it is trending that way right now. We have an NFT portfolio, and we have like a
Nice.
trading short-term portfolio. So we put our money where our mouth is. We have a team of research analysts, and one of our guys is one of the best on-chain analysts in the world. Name is Checkmate. So I follow his research very closely, and very closely when it comes to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the Mac Daddy, regardless of how people individually feel. There's a reason it's number one still, and ultimately, like where we're at, according to on-chain analysis with Bitcoin, is that look, the sellers have sold. Like the people that were going to sell have sold. Everyone else is holding tight. Will there be another existential event that causes more people to offload Bitcoin and or Ethereum? I don't know. I think it would need to be really, really major. And in that case, even if it was, as we saw with the war actually became bullish for crypto. The war, I mean, in and of itself, like both Russians and Ukrainians buying crypto was incredible to see happen. And so I just think there's a lot of reasons to be bullish. And I mean, in long run, like no question, like for me, ever.
I just wish I had
But in the
much
short
more
term,
cash to plow into it because I see the prices. I say I just can't buy anymore today. That's it, man. I've
yeah,
already,
that's most people's
you know,
challenge. And
I'm holding
and
right now. Like,
yeah, yeah. So the next thing that people typically do is that they take out a loan on their crypto. They
yeah,
use leverage, and
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I, I
I'm not
I
doing that.
strongly advise against that. I think you have to be a professional to do that. In short,
Yes.
I
I have
I
a
think
friend who is a professional and does it, and I say that sounds too much. It's too scary for me. Thanks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it really is. But for people that become more sophisticated and dive in and they start to understand the different levels of this
Yeah.
and they learn how to play in DeFi, there are risk mitigated ways of doing this where, I mean, for example, right now you can take a loan, it might make more sense to take your crypto, get some leverage. I mean, this is crazy. Like one of my DeFi nerd friends was like talking about this the other day. You can go buy some stonks, take a loan on your
Yeah.
stonks, go back to some sort of DeFi protocol like Anchor and do that all
Yeah.
over again, buy
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
more, and you're earning like 15-20% on that. And then your third or fourth layer in. And if there is a liquidation event of any kind, it would only affect that top layer. And so there's ways that you can get
I
really
know.
sophisticated with this
I
stuff.
know.
But it requires basically full-time commitment, but there is
A
massive
band,
opportunity.
there's a bandwidth and an understanding that has to go with. I see it and I say I see that this is possible, but I would need to devote time to this.
Yeah,
I can't just
for sure.
because I would be stupid to follow it off of someone's tip unless I'm really going to look at it.
Yeah.
Start, but if you do it, start small. You can try some of these little flips, little DeFi. I mean, the most I do is stake right now. I'm just staking, and that feels comfortable. And I buy more. I think that's like the main thing. I think just buying the big ones, not being too scared of the dips. I mean, I love to see Ethereum. Was it 2,500 and 2,900? I don't know what it is today. I haven't looked.
Yeah, yeah, but
I kind of
I
have not
totally
been looking a
agree. I
lot
think
recently.
I think you got to be all in. I mean, I run a company. Like I don't
Yeah,
have that ability to do that. But look, at the end of the day, if you look at the research anyway, like over and over again, whether it's crypto research or stocks and
stonks.
brokers, nobody beats. Like very rarely does a trader beat a holder, and so all you
Right.
got to do is have high conviction buys, buy as much of it that you feel comfortable as possible. And in the long run,
Yep.
allow compounding to do its thing. Every time you sell and pay taxes and stop that compounding, you're really fucking yourself. So
Yeah.
just buy what you believe in, not Doge. And just kidding. Little Shiba Inu, for fun to gamble. But really, look, at the end of the day, I believe that Ethereum is the most undervalued asset of all time, possibly the greatest trade of all time. I highly recommend people check out an article called "The Triple Halving" by Squish. If you want to include that for people, I think it'd be awesome.
We'll put in the show notes.
And one of the great reads, if you really want to get a nice hard on for Ethereum and become really get a bullish take on this at a time where there isn't a lot of hope for people because of what's going on. It'll really get you going, and you'll find some dollars because it's. I love it.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes. I also believe that ETH is highly undervalued, or undervalued only in that undervalued, and it'll be worth a lot more later. I don't know if it's undervalued for now. I think 3,000. Look, I look at an Amazon stock, for instance, and I say, ETH is about as much as an Amazon share, but ETH has a lot more utility. So I guess maybe it is undervalued in that way. But it's also, when you consider the fact that ETH has only been around since 2015, it's pretty amazing that it's worth that much so quickly when it took Amazon 30 years to get to this, about the same valuation. So, and you can't do anything with Amazon stock but look at it.
They're both forms of ownership, but one is possibly ultrasound money as well. And I think one is a form of ownership in the new internet, in the infrastructure of the entire new internet. I mean, look at NFTs. NFTs were an accident. NFTs were, as Vitalik famously said, NFTs were the most unexpected thing that ever happened in crypto for him. He never even saw it coming. Do you know how many things are going to be built on top of this infrastructure that nobody sees coming? This is an exponential technology. That's how it works. Like, you have brilliant creative people building in the space that anything is possible. And if you can own a sliver of that, fuck, man.
I wonder how long, I keep asking this question on the podcast. Maybe I shouldn't ask it. It's like manifesting it. But is humanity going to live to see its ultimate form? Are we going to get to that point? Because we have so much potential, but we're just like killing ourselves, man. We're eating ourselves alive. For so
I think there's an incredible amount of chaos and reasons to believe that. If you're asking me personally, or more just think? 100%. Like, I think we'll definitely.
You think we're gonna make it?
Yeah.
On Earth?
Wag me, baby. Absolutely. No, for sure.
I hope we do.
I think we're all gonna make it. I will.
For Tom Bilyeu's sake, he's gonna be 255 by himself.
I will be.
And Dave Asprey
forever, man.
Dave Asprey's gonna be 500 years old, and he's gonna be here.
Vitalik's gonna be 3,000, and no, straight up. That's
Gandalf
literally
beard.
straight up. And it's funny. He actually said a person born today has a 50. He initially said 50, but then he upped it to up to 75. 50 to 75% chance of living until they're 3,000. That's basically immortal. Like, what's the point of even putting a number on it?
Where's he getting this information from?
His fucking genius brain, man.
Where is he getting this information?
That guy is on another level. But he has some very interesting reasons that he unpacks for that number. And I mean,
Sarah and I always joke. Sarah's like, I just want to go to like 90. After that, I'm done. She's like, what? I get it. You keep doing the same thing over and over again. I get it.
I want to live. I don't want to be immortal. I don't think anybody wants to be immortal. I think anyone that says,
I don't want to be old forever.
Yeah,
you're old most of your life if you live that long.
Sure, but I think part of it is that's going to also reverse, and what that looks like as well, whether it's in this physical form or not. I have no idea, or whether we're able to actually modify genes to stop, like our bodies and cells to stop aging is another thing to it. Like, if Daniel could look like this for 300 years, would you take it?
Easily. You said 3,000.
I said 3,000, but would you take it for 300?
Oh, easily.
Okay.
I mean, look, God bless him. I changed my great-grandfather's diaper, and that is not what I'm looking forward to.
Right.
That's not where I'm looking forward to going.
Yeah.
I've seen the end of that one, and it's great that he's 99, but I'm not looking forward to being the recipient of that.
I
So
agree.
hopefully there's a better, I mean, he was in pretty good health too for that age, but it's like you're 100 years old. He needs
Yep.
help.
Yep. Exactly.
So what type of shape do you get there in? If I'm 150, but I'm like, feel 150, eh.
Yeah,
I
I don't
already
think
feel
anyone
100 with
wants that.
jujitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I already feel 102 today.
Totally. Yeah, I don't think anyone wants that. But I do believe we'll make it. I think it's a fun thing to think about. It's like I think a lot of it is derived from storytelling, and a lot of
Yeah.
it is true. Like you see a lot of signs, whether it's climate change or the nuclear threat. I mean, fuck, Russia has more nukes than we do. I mean, are you kidding me? Like that's terrifying. So when you look at that stuff, it's not pleasant. And I actually was in a bad spot a couple weeks ago about all this stuff, and I asked myself, what is my core belief though? Like regardless of what's going on, and I'm very optimistic.
I'm optimistic as well, and I vacillate. I think I've done too many psychedelics. I just don't care anymore. I care. I definitely care. Let me not say I don't care. I do care. That's not the case. But I've found is that I know it's all going to be okay in the end. That's what I mean. I do care, but I know that we want to go back to Alan Watts, and we can actually this is a nice. Alan Watts has an entire riff on how chaos at the micro level is harmony at the macro level. And you see the human ants swirling around doing our thing, but then you zoom out and it's like a beautiful, flower under a tree. So I try not to get too stressed out about the day-to-day stuff because we're all just trying in our own individual ways to do our best. And I can't have any direct impact over what's going on in Ukraine, for sure. I can't.
That's right.
I don't, I see some of these banners that go up on different websites, donate to Ukraine. I'm like, I don't think that's the best way to make the world a better place for me at this point in time. I think it's better if I just focus on the people immediately around me and the community around me and do as much as I can for them and stay myself healthy. And if we're all doing that, seems like that's the best way humanity can move forward. But there can still be chaos and then harmony resulting from the chaos. Your cells are killing themselves on a daily basis in order to make way for a harmonious balance of health. You have tiny death to create bigger life. But obviously, stand with Ukraine. Don't want to know anybody get killed. But that's like obviously. And I'm sorry, I'm going off on a rant now.
No,
but
I love it.
I am not, because someone put in the comments, they're like, you're obviously pro-Russia. I said, pro-Russia? Come on, guys. Let's be honest. Anyone who's being aggressed upon, I'm on the side of the person being aggressed upon. I don't want anybody to get, I don't think anybody sympathizes with someone else or doesn't empathize with someone else who's not getting hurt or who's getting hurt.
Yeah, man, it goes without saying. It's like so ridiculous that you have to even qualify that. Did you see my Russia post?
Which one?
I posted a Russian flag on Instagram and I wrote something.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah. All truth, baby.
What was the? Okay, well,
all truth. I'll let you read it. It's very similar to what you're saying. I mean, it shouldn't be controversial in any way whatsoever.
No,
there's no controversy.
I also think I think it will actually be a relatively short skirmish because Russia can't afford a Vietnam. They can't afford an Iraq. They don't have the money. In fact, I just read recently that Russia has a smaller GDP than Texas, which is really Texas is really the one, aren't they? They really could. They really could take on the world.
I'm surprised you didn't go to Texas. I thought we might end up in Texas. Yeah.
No, man. You got to understand. Like similar to what you're saying at the beginning, I got to find my own way. I think going into the space as an entrepreneur, I didn't realize it's kind of like being in a high school class and everyone has their like things that they're good at, classes that they do well at, classes that they don't. You have the jocks, you got the theater geeks, you got the dorks. I don't know, I'm making these classes up. Yeah. But in the entrepreneurship circle, I think that maybe 7+ years ago, I started off and I was thinking, okay, we're all playing the same game here. And in some ways, we all are playing the same game. It's the money game. It's the capitalism game. But we all also have our unique games too, where it's like, I can only do the things that I do best. Yeah. I'm going to do the things that are uniquely me. And for a while, I had this impression that I had to do, because, I worked with Ramit, for instance. And Ramit was one of those guys who is very, very good at his way of doing things. And I would try to do things his way. And I'm pretty good, but I'm not him. right? And I would try to do things like Nathan's way. Oh, well, Nathan would do it like this, so I'll do it like that. Or whoever I thought was also a peer who I looked up to or who I thought was good. But then I said, man, I got to do the things the way I do them and find my own path. And that has been healing for me because I'm like, man, I don't have to feel any type of shame that I can't do things the way that other people do them, or I don't have to feel like I'm not measuring up because the only measuring stick is myself. And I find that with jiu-jitsu as well. Like there are other people who can do different things that I can't do, but I also have my own game. I have my own things that I do. And you have your game too. So like maybe you're measuring yourself too much against people who you consider your peers in your class or people who you think are maybe above you or past you in the thing that you want. But once you find your game, you don't have to worry so much about what they're doing. And if you just focus on you and focus on developing your unique experiences, your specific knowledge, just kind of like be in your own echo chamber for a while and not think about like, even with e-commerce, like even strength and seduction, it's like, oh my God, we went all the way up. And then it's like, oh my God, we went all the way down. And it's like, well, should I do better at e-commerce or what should I do? And it's just like, oh, just focus on what you are good at. Focus on your things and find that. But now I have the experience from it. I'm like, oh, well, I know what it's like to make a few million on e-com. I know what that's like. I can tell you some things, I don't know. Going on a self-confidence rant for myself there.
Well, that is probably the most common ailment that people face. And I know anyone that heard that needed to hear that. Like that is the game of life in so many ways, man. It's like having the ability to realize that there is no game outside of your own game. Comparing and looking left and right, it truly, truly fucks you up. It's funny, I haven't even watched the Kanye documentary yet. Like I guess I'm waiting for like at least 67 people to tell me. I'm currently at like 66. It's many people. I just haven't had time. But I mean, I already know this about Kanye or any great artist, any unique individual has never given a shit what other people are doing.
No.
They're carving their own path. You have to be unconventional. And even if you're not an unconventional person, you just have to give yourself some love and be like, whatever I am is more than enough. This is what creates all this constant imposter syndrome. The root of imposter syndrome is like comparison. It's like, it's just such it's not useful in any way whatsoever.
Well, one thing I want to say too about this, because I've been thinking about that a lot too. One, people perceive others who are successful as not dealing with or have dealt with imposter syndrome. Not true. And the second thing is, one thing that we don't consider when we're thinking about, when we are comparing ourselves, is we're comparing our endpoint, but we're not comparing our starting points. And everyone's life has completely different circumstances. We're not starting off as identical twins from the same womb at the same time. And I mean, I guess if you're in a siblings rivalry, that's a whole different thing. But like most of the people that you're comparing yourself to in a professional sense, for instance, you have to look at the circumstances of your life, your upbringing, your location, your age, your parents, your physical ailments, your mental, your mindset, your influences, like all those things affect the outcome. And it's not a type of excuse for not being who you want to be, but you can't compare someone's path to yours because you're starting from completely different locuses of control.
I mean, what do people want anyway? They think it's going to make them. First of all, most people are not nearly as successful as we think. It's all just a show anyway.
No,
and as you know from working with certain, just generally working with people that on paper are supposedly so successful and so on and so forth. Yeah. And I've had many of these experiences as well. Oh. You look behind the veil, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man?
Totally.
Your heroes, they're not what you think, and the only reason you want what they have, or the only reason you want to be a different kind of CEO or a different kind of entrepreneur, or you want to earn a different kind of car, the only reason you want all those things is because you think it's going to make you feel differently.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to change how you feel. Nothing on the outside is going to change how you feel. It never will. So the game is always an inner game, and it's worth repeating all the time because that's the only game there is, in my opinion.
Do you ever notice that you go throughout your day, by the way, yes, I'm vibing with that. And do you ever notice that you go throughout your day, and as you're like experiencing something, you're like experiencing mild dissatisfaction, or you're thinking about something that's coming today or tomorrow, and you're thinking, oh, I'm not looking forward to that, or you're just thinking about things that you're like that are annoying you, and you're like thinking to yourself, oh, I wish this didn't have to happen, or I wish I didn't have to do this or that. I experience that a lot. Like I'll be walking around and like critiquing things or judging things or like dreading things. And I just started saying to myself recently, because I was getting annoyed by the voice that was talking. I'm like, why does it keep, because it just keeps, talking. And I'm able to have that separation between the voice and the self. And I started saying to myself in response, there's nothing to be upset about because you're creating your entire life. Whatever you don't like, whatever is annoying you, you can change that immediately. You can do whatever you want. Even with your day, like I look at my calendar sometimes and I'll be like, oh, I got it. It's a podcast, so I know it's not a big deal. But I'll be like, oh, I got 3 interviews.
Fucking Arman.
It's gonna be energy, fucking Arman. But I'm like, everything that we're doing with our lives, we're creating our day. All the puzzle pieces we're putting together. So if anything is annoying you, you are the catalyst for that change.
Yeah.
You are the catalyst. You are the number one linchpin in your life. And I think that sometimes I go through that process of reminding myself that a lot.
I love that, man. That's super valuable. I do as well. Yes. And I have like 2 characters. One on the one end of the spectrum is like Larry David. I have like so many. My wife is just like, oh my God, cynical. You are so fucking Larry sometimes. And then on the other side of the spectrum is like this fucking meditative, Buddhist, Michael Singer, untethered soul, aware of all the thoughts at all times and never like reacts. So it's like, well, that's life. Like bouncing between just, oh, that stupid thing that just happened on the one hand and like over acknowledging it and over identifying with the thought,
looping
like Larry,
on it.
Just like that. And then over here, it's just like, it's nothing. It's just, I'm in bliss. And so that's the game.
It's playing the game. But yeah, it's like, but we go throughout our whole lives and we think that we're living in the world, but we're living in our world.
That's right.
The things are happening around us are happening inside of us. And we're reacting to things. I mean, I'm walking outside, for instance, and we could be walking next to each other and having 2 completely different experiences. I'm walking and the dog finds a fucking rotten tuna fish sandwich on the ground and darts towards it to eat it. And now my anger level is going up. Because I'm like, you fucking eat that sandwich. It's going to come out either way and I'm going to have to clean it. So get away from the fucking sandwich. So I'm like, get away. And I'm looking and thinking, do I need to be this angry right now? I'm responsible for this feeling. Calm it down. I can feel the blood pressure rising.
Totally, man. Totally. Yeah. Our focus, the story we tell creates our reality every day, every moment. Absolutely, man.
You fucking Web3. You Web3 sage.
You are the Web3 sage, brother.
Do you have a website now or you just operate in the cloud?
Yeah, you have to think of me and I just show up.
Say it 3 times in the mirror.
No, it's arman.xyz.
So you got a nice Web3 address?
I actually switched from armanassadi.com to arman.xyz. It's the same site. Yeah, I just got the domain. Had to buy it. I wanted it.
You have the only name that rivals mine in coolness.
Di Piazza.
Di Piazza. Yeah, much love, man. I love talking to you. I
Always.
wish I could see you more in person. Let's do something this year.
Absolutely.